Now, speaking of which, the ANC now resuming what really is the National Conference today. Although virtually it follows this adjournment back in December, the party has committed to finalising all matters on the agenda before its 111th birthday celebrations on Sunday in Mangaung. Well, earlier it held a media briefing on what to expect in the days coming. In Bloemfontein, eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge is there for us. So, Siphamandla, Cyril Ramaphosa going into this conference as well. There's still a lot of work to be done. And I suppose one of the big questions that has to be asked as well is the outcome from the opening of this. Where does the ANC pick up off the back of Nasrec? Good afternoon.
Indeed. So today and tomorrow is about the most important aspect of the ANC's National Conference, and that is the issue of policy discussions. They broke into commissions. They are discussing energy crisis, economy, peace and stability, unemployment, gender-based violence, and just violent crime in South Africa, among other issues that they are discussing. So December 2022, they dealt with the electoral aspect of it by electing national leadership, the top 7 officials and members of the National Executive Committee. They dealt with that, and that is done. So today, as they are resuming, it's because they wanted to have enough time to deal with policy discussions. Our viewers will recall that in the past, the ANC has been heavily criticized for not dedicating enough time to talk about policy issues, even though they may have had their National Policy Conference in July last year. But remember, the National Conference is the one that must adopt all the proposals and resolutions that have been brought to the National Conference. So they need time to deliberate on those proposals and resolutions before the National Conference can adopt them. So today's conference resuming is mainly about declarations that will be read by the Secretary General of the ANC in the early hours of the morning tomorrow, and the resolutions. And after that, there will be a closing address that will be delivered by the President of the ANC as it starts to rain here in Mvelo Safari Lodge in Bloemfontein. NEC members of the ANC are physically present in Bloemfontein together with the officials of the ANC because they are preparing for the January 8 statement that will be delivered by the ANC president on behalf of the National Executive Committee. And that statement, and that statement will center around 2 issues really: renewal and unity of the ANC. That will be the theme, and that's what they will be working towards. Earlier on, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed this gathering following the resumption of the 55th National Conference of the ANC. This is what he had to say. Let's take a listen.
The decisions that we take today will have far-reaching impact on our movement, the African National Congress, and indeed on the country as well. In many ways, they will determine whether our movement is able to overcome the many challenges that confront our own movement and the people of our country. These decisions will also determine whether we are able to reverse the organizational and electoral decline that we identified when we met in December, and whether we will emerge stronger, more united, and more effective in meeting the needs of the people of our country. The resolutions that we will adopt today will also have important implications for the direction of the national democratic revolution. They will need to accelerate the pace as well as the direction, and also deepen the impact of the fundamental social and economic transformation that our people are looking forward to.
All right, so Siphamandla, a very fast-moving Siphamandla. You found some cover from the rain and the wind coming through. One could even think that the wind coming through where you are looks very, very like it's high-speed wind at the moment. Winds of change, perhaps, but before we get there, of course, is the newly elected SG saying things are changing. There's a lot of content and also a lot of discussions we have to get through as well. And based on Nasrec, we're all hoping, of course, that they stay on time, don't we?
Absolutely, and that wind of change that you are talking about will be felt in the next 2 weeks, according to the newly elected Secretary General of the ANC, Mr. Fikile Mbalula. And that change that many people are talking about, the wind that is going around countrywide, has to do with the cabinet reshuffle. Those talks emanate from the fact that the Deputy President of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, is not part of the executive. Usually the ANC prefers that its President and Deputy President form part of the executive. They are deployed to government. David Mabuza, who did not make it back to the top structures of the ANC leadership, was not re-elected as the Deputy President, but he remains the Deputy President of the Republic. That creates a conundrum for the ANC somehow, because they need to deal with the issue of Paul Mashatile. Is he going to remain at Luthuli House, or is he going to join government? And also Mr. Mbalula himself, who's the Secretary General, has to resign at some point because his position at Luthuli House is a permanent one. And also there is a vacancy that was created by the departure of Ayanda Dlodlo months ago from last year. That position had not been filled. So with the election of new NEC members and some cabinet ministers not making it to the NEC of the ANC, there are talks that indeed winds of change are blowing, because new NEC members, some of them will have to be accommodated when it comes to the deployment in terms of government. But the change that many South Africans are hoping for is the change that will be implemented by the ANC in seeing, the fast pace in terms of service delivery. Talk about the Free State, for instance. This is a province that the ANC has been governing uninterrupted. They've got the majority here, but where we are in Bloemfontein, Mangaung, the metro is under administration. There are issues of service delivery or lack of service delivery. The ANC itself in this province is in disarray. There is no duly elected provincial leadership of the ANC. There is an interim provincial committee in place. It's the ANC in the Free State and the Western Cape that have not gone to their provincial conferences. But ANC members in this province are hoping after this conference things will change for the people of South Africa, because the ANC is a governing party. They are hoping that at least after the January 8th statement, which has got nothing to do with governance, by the way, it's just the ANC celebrating our 11 years. They will talk about what they need to do, successes and challenges, but the people of South Africa will judge the ANC in 2024. But Mr. Mbalula is of the view that the president, after consulting with the officials, will have to look into the issue of a possible cabinet reshuffle. Let's take a listen.
The officials will apply their mind on that. It's not only that, there are many other issues that we'll be discussing. President also is looking at the issue of replacement in cabinet. So in the next week, after this conference on January 8th, we are hard at work in terms of the new restructuring. We are hard at work in terms of government structure, cabinet, how is it going to look like, and so on. The president will have applied his mind on some of these issues. We'll be hard at work in terms of preparing for the government Lekgotla and the ANC Lekgotla and the constituting new committees and deployment. So it's a lot of things, and adopting a new program of action. So that's what we'll be doing. Of course, it is not up to me to say what will happen. I will only cross that bridge when we get there, and I will announce it to you in terms of exactly the question you are asking, what will actually happen. And at the present moment, there is no crisis. The status quo still remains, and when anything happens in that regard, we'll give you an update.
All right, so as Siphamandla says, the winds of change are blowing through Bloemfontein. The rain is coming down, which, as we all know, an African proverb means things are going to be changing. Siphamandla Goge, we'll go back to him again a little bit later. Now, don't go anywhere. Coming up on SA Tonight in a moment, this has all got to do with housing and housing assistance, especially down in the Western Cape. Have you heard about being able to pay for preferential treatment? It's illegal. We're going to talk about it when we come back in a second here on South Africa Tonight.